Standards Practice Week 17. Number 1. Which expression is equivalent to the expression below? So I want to know which of these is the same value as this. So I can actually multiply this out. Be very careful. A lot of people forget that when it's squared, it means it's written twice, and then they don't actually take the time to distribute it correctly, and they miss the middle term. So x times x is x squared. And x times negative 3 is negative 3x. And then I need to do this negative 3 times everything. So negative 3 times x is negative 3x. And negative 3 times negative 3 is positive 9. And then you want to add your like terms. Remember, these do not cancel out because one's not positive and the other negative. They are the same sign, so be very cautious. And that'll tell you the answer to number 1. Number 2. Which expressions below are equivalent to the expression seen below? Select all that apply. So I want to know what's equivalent to this value. So I'm actually just going to solve these or simplify these and see which one turns into that. So for the first one, just make sure that you know there's a negative 1. That's a 1 outside of this. So I can distribute the negative 1 into here. So really that's 6x squared minus 9x squared. Negative 1 and times 12x is negative 12x. Minus 2x, and then you're going to combine your like terms. Remember, you leave the exponents the same, so 6 minus 9 would be negative 3, so it would be negative 3x squared. And then when you do it for the other part, negative 12x and negative 2x is negative 14x. So you decide if that is equivalent to the first thing. Let's look at the next one. You're going to distribute this, so x times 3x. You're going to simplify that, plus whatever x times 14 is. And if you're going to decide if this, once it's simplified, is equivalent to that. On the next one, remember, make sure when you have a minus sign outside parentheses, you understood there's like a negative 1. You can distribute it, and then just add your like terms. So let's simplify this. So the 5x squared plus 10x plus 6 stays the same. Negative 1 times 2x squared is negative 2x squared. Negative 1 times negative 4x is positive 4x. And negative 1 times 6 is negative 6. And then you're going to add your like terms. So I have a 5x squared and a negative 2x squared. You add them together. And then you have 10x and 4x. And you add those together. And then lastly, you have a positive 6 and a negative 6. And they do cancel out because one's positive, one's negative. And you decide if that's equivalent to this original term. The next one, you're just going to combine like terms since this is just adding the binomial and polynomial. So I'm going to look for like terms. I have an x squared here, an x squared here, an x squared here. So you're going to add all the coefficients. Remember, there's a 1 in front of that. So 1 plus 6 and plus a negative 4. And then you're going to add your x's together. So this, this, and this. And you just want to leave it as x. So 2 plus negative 4 plus 16. Or you could think of it as 2 minus 4 plus 16. And if that's equivalent to this, make sure you select it. If it's not, just leave it blank. Okay, next slide. Use the situation below to answer the following. The length of a rectangular sandbox is 4x plus 1, and the width of the sandbox is x minus 2. What polynomial in standard form represents the area of the sandbox? Remember, area equals length times width. If your answer is not in standard form, then you will not get credit. So order does matter for your final answer. Okay, so firstly, it wants us to actually find what the area would be. And it tells you area is length times width. So I'm going to take 4x plus 1 and times it by x minus 2. 4x plus 1. And then x minus 2. And you can double distribute like we did last time. I'm going to remind you what the box method is in case you have forgotten. I don't blame you. It's been a while since we've seen each other. So the box method looks like this. And I'm going to put 4x plus 1 on one side. And then I'm going to do x minus 2 on the other. And then you're going to multiply these together. So x times 4x is 4x squared. 1 times x, or x times 1, is 1x. And that's positive. 4x times negative 2, or negative 2 times 4x, is negative 8x. And then negative 2 times 1, or 1 times negative 2, that's just negative 2. And you want to make sure you combine your like terms, which happens to be the negative 8x and the 1x. So it's going to be 4x squared plus whatever this is minus 2. And you do want to go in that order because your highest exponent goes first, then your next one, and then your constants always last. Let's look at number 4. Given the parameter formula for this sandbox is 10x minus 2, name this polynomial by degree and number of terms. So we're just going to be looking at this term. Oops, let me select the pen. So 10x minus 2. Well, there are 2 parts to it, so 2 terms, which will make it a binomial. And since the highest exponent of the variable is a 1, that means it's linear. So it has 2 terms, which makes it a binomial, and its highest exponent is 1, which means it's linear.